Trade deadline came and went, and the Cubs made 3 deals. Was it enough? What did you think? Wasn't an all-out sell. It wasn't an all-out buy. It was somewhere in the middle. We're going to get into that. We'll talk about the trades and the guys that didn't get traded, which is kind of surprising because there were some guys that you would have definitely thought would have been moved at the deadline. Now that's passed. So the Cubs are who they are. We're going to get into that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Thanks for being here. Let's get this thing started. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm your buddy. I'm your friend. I'm your Cubs neighbor over here, Mick Gillespie, app broadcaster Mick, talking about the Cubs on our channel. Trade deadline came and went, and we were in position. We were like, hey, when this thing breaks, we're going to jump right on, and we're going to tell you about this last blockbuster deal that the Cubs pull off, and yet it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So here's what we're looking at. We got the final tally of trades is 3, okay? Earlier today, the Cubs traded Mark Leiter Jr. to the Yankees for Ben Cowles and Jack Neely. We did a video talking about these 2 guys. Cowles is actually on the IL right now, could be out of action for a while. He was hit by a pitch over the weekend, but was one of the best hitters in the Eastern League, led the league in hits, and someone that started to really find his stride playing for the Yankees AA affiliate of Somerset, and is going to be a welcomed addition to this Cubs team when he's back in action again. And I felt like this deal for the Cubs was more about Jack Neely, who is a hard thrower, can get it up 97, 98, really good fastball, command, throw strikes, has movement on a slider, has a lot of confidence. And someone that was projected to maybe be in the major leagues this year. And, you feel like, hey, if you're giving up Mark Leiter Jr., you're getting 2 guys back, and you feel like Neely is a future bullpen ace maybe for the Cubs. And I've heard some people say maybe even closer stuff. So that deal to me was a deal that came out of necessity after the Cubs traded Christopher Morel, Hunter Bigge, and Tyler Johnson for Issac Paredes of the Tampa Bay Rays. And here's a guy who was with the Cubs, got traded to the Tigers, and then the long road back, and now he's back with the Cubs again, except he's an all-star. He's a well-rounded player, and I think that was the thing that Morel really struggled with, is that there's more to baseball than just hitting home runs. And, he didn't get a lot of hits. He got some home runs. He had some RBIs, but the defense wasn't good. The base running made a lot of mistakes. Paredes is more of an all-around player. His WAR is much better than Morel's. Big upgrade, but you had to give up maybe a future closer in Hunter Bigge, who I felt like could have closed for the Cubs now, just because you look at what they had in the bullpen, what they still have there, and I don't see anyone being so good that you couldn't replace them. They don't have a real closer. They have some guys that could do it. Adbert Alzolay was the closer, and you know the story there, on the IL, was getting back towards the big leagues, setback, comes to Chicago. We won't see him for a long time. And then Tyler Johnson was a lower level minor league pitcher who was off to a really good start to his career. These guys, Cubs trade them, and then they turn around and they end up in the big leagues. That's just what the Rays do. They're not trading you. They can't afford to make mistakes on these deals. And they're an organization that has nailed them for years. So they get Tyler Johnson back in this deal. But I think everyone was really excited about Paredes because he's an all-star, because he's good defensively, because it gives you a bona fide threat in the middle of your lineup. And I think that this is someone that the Cubs will have around for a while, solidifies third base. You would expect that anyway. And now you got the building blocks of a team that might not make the playoffs this year, but next year and beyond. So you see what Jed Hoyer was doing there. It's like, hey, we're going to make a deal and take this guy away from some other teams that you would have thought, hey, I need a third baseman. I'm going to get this guy. Because the Cubs are out of it now doesn't mean that they're not going to be in this later on. So I think everyone was excited about this deal. Now, the other deal was they got Nate Pearson, who had such a weird start to his Cubs career because he got ejected. He hit a guy in the head with a pitch on accident, but the umpires didn't realize it was on accident. He's getting stared down by the Reds. Like, I got hit in the head. Like, there's no way that your first game in, you're going to give up a home run. Then you're going to hit someone in the head because you're mad about it. Like, so the umpiring in this situation was just stupid, but, that's just the way it is. Cubs gave up what I would consider a couple marginal guys, Josh Rivera. I got to fix that graphic. Who, not came out of Florida, 3rd-round pick, really wasn't that impressive, batting under 200. Defense was okay. It hadn't come together yet. Now, some people were saying maybe they pushed Josh up through the system too fast. He probably needed a little more time in the lower levels. And that's just not the way they do it anymore. They push you through, but he was really struggling. And then Yohendrick Pinango, who actually did really well in high A and hadn't quite made the double A adjustment, but kind of had some flashes. And then you get Pearson, who has 1st-round stuff, right? Because he was a 1st-round pick, but he's just never put it together. But he throws 98 and he's got a good slider. He just gets hit all the time. So can the Cubs figure that out? Can they figure out how to get him ready? So those are your 3 deals. Now, a lot of you guys are going, okay, that's great, but what happened? Okay, maybe teams didn't want Hector Neris. I mean, you can't say, hey, we're going to trade this guy. And I saw some of the comments that you guys put on there, and you're like, hey, what about Patrick Wisdom? Teams might not want a guy that can't play defense, strikes out a lot, and then runs into a home run here and there. I mean, like basically an all or nothing pinch hitter. Okay. So they might not want to give up anything for that. I'm not surprised that the Cubs didn't trade Nico Horner. I know there had to be interest there, but I don't know about trading Nico. I'm probably going to stick by Nico. He's under control. He's a good player. He's an all-star. The guys you have in the minor leagues aren't ready to take that spot yet. So maybe you just hold out and look, you can trade in the offseason. I mean, you could trade tomorrow. You just can't have those players eligible for the postseason roster. So it's not like Nico might not get dealt, but I could see that. And if you didn't get the value back that you thought you deserved, no rush on that. I never thought Justin Steele was going to get traded. Thought that was kind of a little bit crazy, even though didn't have a great game tonight. I still wouldn't trade him. Cody Bellinger, the finger break, the contract that is so player friendly teams. And I put the Cubs in the same category. It's hard to make a deal for Cody Bellinger when you look at him and go, well, he might opt in for next year. He might not, and then you're trying to make a trade for him. Plus the broken finger, the timing of it was bad. And so that combo, I thought maybe late, some team would, you know what, we can get Cody Bellinger. He's a former MVP, and he's comeback player of the year, but no one wanted to do that, or maybe they didn't offer enough for the Cubs. Now, the biggest surprise to me is that Jameson Taillon did not get traded. Now, he had 10 teams on his contract from what reports are saying that he could block a trade for. Now, they said, well, he didn't even ask for that. And the Cubs even had him pitch yesterday, which tells you that they didn't think that they could get a deal done for Taillon. Now, if I was the Cubs, I would have traded Taillon, looking at what he did last year and then thinking, hey, man, he's had like a half of a good season this year, but you could get rid of that contract. But that's not the case. So now you got to hope that Taillon is going to be able to continue pitching like he has been. And then I saw somebody else asked about Bodie. His contract's too high. And that's it. I mean, when you really look at it, the other one would have been Julian Merriweather, but he hasn't been healthy long. So teams might have been like, we're not going to take a risk on giving up guys for Merriweather. And he's not back to 100%. Could end up haunting a team because he's a really good pitcher when he's healthy. was honestly the guy that I wish the Cubs hadn't have traded is Hunter Bigge, because I feel like he was in position right now to go into that bullpen had the Cubs just put him in there and stopped doing the whole back and forth to Iowa thing. That it could have really helped them in these close games that they keep losing. But you know what? There's just this thing going on right now where you go and you get a guy from, either a really cheap trade, or you pick him up off of waivers, you let him throw a couple games, and then you release him when you need space on the roster, and I know that's a strategy, but I would rather just put my best players in there and let them try to play for me. And Biggie to me would have been one of those. So, we'll see what he does. Maybe he goes to Tampa Bay and gets rocked. Maybe he's, that 97 that he throws and the slider aren't going to play in the big leagues like they did in the minors. We'll find out. The guy that I'm the most curious about is Christopher Morel. Is someone else going to be able to take Morel and figure this out? Are they looking at him and going, man, the Cubs got him at third. He needs to be playing second. Maybe he could play some center field. I've seen him play outfield. He's actually really fast and good at it. But to me, the bigger concern is just he makes a lot of, mental mistakes in the game. How do you figure that out? It's just experience, right? You just got to go out there and have somebody come up and go, hey, you know what? On that play, you got to do this. And then how quickly can you figure all of that out? So, and then the Nate Pearson trade, this is another one of those recreation progress, picks that the Cubs have that we'll see if they can do it. They've done this before where they've taken guys like this and they've turned them into pretty good pitchers. So, but all in all, grading this trade deadline, I say it's a B. It's not an A. You didn't dump enough salary for me. You didn't get rid of Tyone. You didn't trade Bellinger. You didn't, get Neris out of there. But at the same time, the Paredes trade was a shocker. It was a good one. Guy's going to be around for a while. I hate that you lost a relief pitcher, but value-wise, relief pitching is valued way down here. And a starting third baseman with power and good defensively is up here. So that makes sense to me. I didn't think that the Cubs did a bad job with the Pearson trade because I'm just not sold on those two prospects. And then, we'll find out about Leiter Jr. because he was a really good reliever. But Neely, everybody that I talked to that's seen this guy is really high on him. And then Cowles, when he gets back and healthy, maybe he's another guy that can come in and help this organization because he slides right in there with the Triantoses and the Shaws and the BJ Murrays, these infielders that can hit. And the Cubs have a lot of them in their chains. So that's it. That's our recap of the trade deadline. But I'm telling you, we were right there. If we just had gotten one more good deal, I would have slid these guys up into the A zone because I thought it was coming. I really did. Sitting around going like this, like, let's go. And then nothing happened. So, but you guys tell me what you think. Comment section, get in there, make comments right here on the channel. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Ant will have that show for you. He'll tell you his thoughts on all of this, but we've had so much fun following this thing, talking about it. And we appreciate all of you guys for hanging out. If you're not a subscriber, it's free to subscribe. It's free to give us a thumbs up. It's free to comment. And that's what we want here. We just want to have a good time talking Cubs baseball. I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks, guys, and go Cubs.